Hey guys, I'm going to do a quick video here on preparations before a race day, what I like to do before the race. I don't have one for a couple weeks, so anyway, I'm just going to get it out of the way so it's good and done, and then that way I can show you how I like to do it. Anyway, the first thing you want to do is get your car on the stand, wheels off the ground, make sure nothing's touching the control arms, and make sure you have a full tank of fuel, your receiver pack in, your body on, the car's just ready to hit the track. First thing we're doing is setting the droop, which is pretty much the overall length of the shocks while it's on the buggy. It's going to be we're going to be measuring it in the center of the bottom screw on the control arm and the very center of the shock standoff. What I like to run in the front is 96 millimeters. And what I got here is actually, you can use digital calipers, that's probably the best, but I have a Lucky Charm old school fractional dial caliper. If you do have one of these and you don't want to get a metric one or digital one, there's a pretty cool formula you can use. You take your metric measurement, because they go by, most are going to go by millimeters. So I'm running 96 millimeters in the front. You're going to take that 96 millimeters and divide it by 25.4. That's going to give you your inch measurement, which comes to just about 3.77 millimeters for the droop in the front. Then you just take your calipers and you measure it from the very center of the bottom bolt to the very center of the top of the shock standoff, just like that. This has already been set up because it's kind of hard to do it while I'm filming. I don't have a cameraman yet. After your droop is set, same applies for the rear, center of each screw and the shock standoff. So you get your car off the stand and put it on the table. The next thing you want to do is set your ride height, and you need to drop the car. Again, it's got to be a full tank of fuel. All the weight's got to be in it for racing. And then what I have here, I think, this is a team associated ride height gauge. Now, what I've noticed in the past is I'd forgotten this one time at home. Actually, I forgot my whole darn toolbox and ended up showing up at the track, and I wasn't driving an hour all the way back home just to go get my toolbox so I could race. So I borrowed somebody's camber gauge. They had a Losi one, and I did notice that they're all a little bit different as far as the measurement with the height, even though it says, like, I think I'm going to run 27 millimeters of ride height in the front, and I checked it with his, and it was actually off. And so it just depends on what you're running. I guess it's not that big of a difference anyway. So once you drop your car down, you want to measure your ride height. You're going to set it up. I run 27 millimeters in the front. I'm going to try to do this again one-handed. That should be 29, 20, 27. And then you set it up, and then you want to slide it under the buggy and right at the flat spot of your chassis in the front, because a lot of these are pitched upward, the skid plate in the front, and this is going to need to be adjusted. I can see that there's a gap. What you do with that is, it's on your shock collars. You just screw them down in order to lift it, and screw them up, loosen them to lower the vehicle, and set it on each side. Another thing I like to do is mark my shock caps so I know how far I went equally. I just use a Dremel and make a little mark in the shock collar, and that way you can adjust them equally. And make sure you measure, if you're doing the left, do the left side of the bottom of the chassis, and then when you do the right side of the bottom of the chassis. Each time you adjust it and check it, double check it by dropping the vehicle on the table and checking it again until it brushes. The same goes for the rear. Now there's a little bit of a difference here, because underneath the buggy I have a DE Racing skid plate. A lot of guys don't like them, I just do. But you can see this is the flat spot of the chassis, so this is where you're going to measure it. You don't want to measure it here because that's taking up a gap, and that's going to throw your measurement off probably by a couple millimeters. I think that's how thick these are. So right here where your droop limiter screws are. just until it hits that, and then your ride height and your droop is done. Now you can move on to the camber, but you got to make sure that you do your droop, then your ride height first, because ride height changes camber and changes toe. So in this order, and then after that you're going to drop the car again, and you take your camber gauge and measure the camber. I think in the front I'm running 1 degree negative camber in the front, and you're just going to slide it up against the tire flat, and I can see that this one's going to need to be adjusted a little bit. And then the same thing goes for the other side. You make your adjustment here until it touches top and bottom, and then same thing, drop the car from 8 to 10 inches off the ground, and then same thing with this side. You're just going to slide the camber gauge right up to the tire, and if it's touching on the top and the bottom like this one is, then you can see that it doesn't need to be adjusted, or does. After that, you spin it around, you do the same thing with the rear, and if you need to do it, you just take your camber link tool here, and you turn it in or out, and you'll see the tire move. And that's about it right there. Then you want to do your toe last. What you're going to want to do with the toe, you can use, if you don't have a setup station, which I'm really dying to get, you can actually use your camber gauge to set your toe. But you're going to want to turn your radio on and your receiver and make sure the wheels aren't going to move, so they're stationary. Then you're going to take a flat board if you want, and across the table here, and you butt each tire up against that the board so it's not moving. Maybe chuck the wheels with something so it doesn't roll, and make sure it's like that. This will get it nice. A lot of guys like to eyeball it. I like to know that it's set good. And this also is after that you make sure that your buggy is tracking straight. So you're gonna, you want to make sure that it rolls nice and straight before and after you set the toe. Once you set the toe, then you can go ahead and make sure it rolls straight. You just got to make sure they're relatively centered. What you might want to do beforehand is take your radio and wiggle the wheels a little bit so everything's nice and centered. And then you put your you can use it just like the camber, but you're laying it down like this. And on this side here, if it's facing up towards you, your negative measurement for camber is going to be negative toe. But here, this is the tricky part, kind of. And make sure it's like this would be on the ground here, against that board with the tires touching the board. And then when you flip it over, now that negative measurement just became positive. So in order to do that, you're going to switch this over to positive 1 degree, then go ahead and measure it, and just make sure that the tire is touching on both ends, and that'll get your toe pretty close to where it needs to be. What I like to run for toe out is 2 to 2.5 degrees, 2 to 3 degrees of toe out. It just kind of lets it dive into the corner a little better. I like off power steering. I don't like on power steering. Pretty much anytime I turn, I'm off the throttle completely. Sometimes into braking. Anyway, it just depends on your driving style. Stay on top of your setup. I've already said that before. Between each qualifier and every practice run, check your setup, adjust it as needed. It just helps you be more consistent with the car. If the car is dialed in with the same setup every time, it's just going to make you be more consistent on the track, whether you're just starting out or been doing it for a long time. After that, your car is pretty much ready to hit the track. You're ready to go out and have some fun. I like to do it before I even get to the track. That way I can just go. I can set my easy up, get that put up, table, unload my stuff, and then just go out and practice. The other thing too, charge all your batteries, your starter box battery, your receiver packs, your glow igniter, your LiPo packs for your brushless motors, whatever it is you're running. After that's about it. This is probably going to be my last video probably until September 28th, the day after. That's my next race. I just want to make sure everything's set up to go. I got a little bit of work to do here on the Truggy. I still got to oil up some air filters and put the air filter on, do the setup on this one too, and hopefully go out and win myself another trophy. Yeah, so that's going to be it for a little while. After this race is the season finale. There is no more races outdoors. There's going to be a little bit of indoor racing. I don't have any electric vehicles, so I'm not going to be able to run indoors. I think they run nitro indoors once a month, so maybe I will, maybe I won't. But I do have some really cool stuff coming up that I'm going to share with you guys. So if you stuck around, you're going to hear the news. I'm not going to tell you exactly what's going on, but I'll give you a hint. It's RC related. So, yeah, I'll share all that with you. I got some really cool stuff coming up. Some unboxing videos. Just some cool stuff for you guys. If there's anything that you guys might want to see from me, either send me a message or comment below. Be sure and subscribe. Tell your friends to subscribe. And we'll have some cool stuff coming up for you guys. We'll talk to you real soon, as soon as we can. I'll do a race recap for you guys after my race on the 28th, probably on the Sunday the 29th. I'll do the race recap video for you, let you guys know how I did and how everything was going. Outside of that, you guys have a real good night, and thanks a lot for watching. Take care.